of Privacy Advisory Services Limited. Again, Privacy Advisory Services Limited. He joins us, Rishi Maharaj, on the Zoom line. Rishi, great to see you, and I'm happy to get your perspective on this. I can't even say it's a debate anymore. It's really just part of the reality, the new reality, AI, and the fact that, of course, the government have now put forward via public administration, and now AI, it's now part of their policy position, and they understand this particular push. So great to have you, Rishi. I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and good morning to all your viewers.
Before we even get into the digital transformation and AI legislation, just give me a little more detail about your company.
So we're a boutique consulting company. We help organizations, both public and private, manage the complexities of dealing with data and working with data within the organization. So we assist them with data governance in terms of putting in all the proper practices in place to be able to manage working with data. We have several countries in the region, Jamaica and Barbados, which recently passed and implemented data protection laws. So we help them with those compliance issues with regards to managing data protection compliance. We're also now helping companies manage how they implement AI solutions in a safe and effective manner to balance public interests and business profitability.
Indeed. Public administration and artificial intelligence, they've now been pulled together under the new administration. I'm sure when you heard this, at least having a designated part of government now looking at AI, this must be exciting time. What's your advice for the new administration?
Well, no, it's exciting to see that the government has a dedicated ministry focusing on AI. I think putting it in public administration is a good choice. In my previous life, I actually worked in the former Ministry of Public Administration, and public administration was always charged with public sector, transformation or revitalizing the public sector. So I think putting it there is important. But we have to remember that with AI comes risk. There are ethical risk, there are privacy and security risk, and there are a lot of guardrails that we need to be aware of. And I think from a governmental point of view, if you're looking now to allow the country to be able to join the AI revolution and to be able to use it as a way to diversify the economy and bring other things to the economy, we need to be very careful in terms of not totally dependent on AI, but creating the guardrails that allows both the public and private sector to properly harness the powers and the capabilities of AI, but doing so in a manner that protects people's ethical rights, human rights, and privacy concerns.
And speaking about human rights, there's the ongoing argument, the circular debate as to AI replacing human beings and replacing jobs. Where are you on that, with that discussion?
Well, I think with any new technology that's coming on, there is definitely going to be some displacements. We just have to look back at when, back in my younger days, you would call into a ministry or a company, a large company, you would get a PBX and you would get an operator, and then the operator would transfer you. And then when the PBX came on, once you have somebody's PIN, you can, automatically put in the PIN and you get onto the person, leave a voicemail. So those things transformed a company and certain jobs were lost. I think with any new technology, there will be some displacement, but as well as displacement, there would also be new creations of new types of ways and new types of jobs that exist out there. I don't think it's going to be a radical displacement as yet, as in, people are going to start losing their jobs within the year or within the next year and a half, but there is going to be some changes in the way companies and organizations adapt to AI, and that may cause some displacement or retooling and reclassification of how certain jobs are done, especially I think at the early stages. I don't want to use the word medial tasks, but tasks that can be easily automated and done in a different way, and you may probably have to reduce numbers because you wouldn't need that amount of staff. So there's definitely going to be some changes with the whole adoption of this new technology.
How do we bring you, well, at least engage the young people? I mean, obviously they're doing it on their own because they have devices, smart devices, and they're doing their own research and, they're doing their own deep dive into AI. But how do we streamline it in a responsible and meaningful way for the next generation?
You have to start at the primary school level.
So primary school, you're looking at primary school, eh?
Yeah, primary school. I'm not even thinking secondary school, primary school. You need to now have it as part of the curriculum in terms of understanding new technologies. The world is changing, and the world is changing now at a rapid pace. There's an exponential change in technologies, growth and changes, and we need to be always aware of what's going on. I don't think this is a secondary school, you bring it in at that level, you need to bring it in at the primary school level, and I'll tell you why. AI is a good tool. It's a great tool. I mean, I use AI, I know everybody almost now uses AI in some form or fashion. But from what I have noticed, especially from a younger generation, is that they seem to rely on the responses that AI gives them without, reviewing, relooking and stuff like that. Just recently, last week, I did a course with some individuals, and they brought to my attention, I think the Law Association in Trinidad, that sent out a bulletin advising lawyers of over-relying on AI as part of helping them create the arguments, because what we've seen in other countries is AI hallucinates. And by hallucination, I mean it makes up things. It makes up precedents, it makes up cases that never existed. So we have to educate and teach our children the proper way to be able to engage with AI, and also interrogate AI, critically think, to be able to manage all the different things. Because AI as a tool, it's still not perfect. There are still mistakes that are made every time. So we need to not be overly reliant on technology. I think we need to start that at a primary school level to allow them to engage with it, but also to be able to critically analyze it and not 100% rely on it for everything.
I stay on top of tech news, and I saw recently, I don't know if you saw this particular development, but I'll read to you. It says AI model ignored a direct shutdown command during a math task and rewrote the codes to avoid being turned off. I don't know if you heard that story, but if indeed that is the case, is that a cause for concern? That AI could literally ignore a particular command and rewrite codes and do their own thing?
Well, I mean, we're now looking at the age of what we call angelic AI, which is AI agents, which is now you're creating so how AI, how it started to develop, we had generative AI with ChatGPT, which works with a prompt. So you prompt something into it and it gives you a response and it awaits a new response. But now with angelic AI, where you have AI agents, these tools are created as a way to be able to, I won't say think for themselves, but to be able to question certain things and be able to do certain tasks automatically without having to rely on a human prompt input to go in. And that is now becoming rapidly, engaging. So that's why we have in AI governance, what they tell you is that you need to understand your risk of what AI is going to be doing within your organization. And as I mentioned earlier on, set up guardrails. And one of the guardrails you need to put in place, depending on the level of work the AI is going to be doing, is something called human in the loop, which is you don't have AI making 100% all the decisions, but you have human intervention at some point in the process to review what the AI is doing. So it's not 100% in control of everything that it's doing. So these are what I mean by the guardrails, because from the example you said there, the AI was able to maybe query other things on its own, come up with other responses, and find ways to bypass the original intent. And those are serious consequences that we have to deal with and face with, and that's where having proper governance and proper mechanisms in place or guardrails in place to be able to check and balance this whole idea of the AI tool being overly self-reliant is definitely important. And legislation and regulation needs to be put in place to govern how that is done, both in the public and private sector.
Well, I was not going to say that because I would imagine part of the whole learning curve now will have to be extensive training. You mentioned the primary school children. We should start from there. So at least the generation coming up, I mean, they're very technically savvy. Remember, we come out analog and we come into the digital world.
Analog, exactly.
Right, but they want digital, right?
Encyclopedias.
Right,
exactly.
So these kids, I mean, they could literally, babies watching a phone and they know exactly what to do. So it's kind of wired into them. But some of us who still might be an analog and working in the public sector or even private sector, I would imagine this now will call for a massive training process. There's going to be a major learning curve going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you have to know how to engage with AI. You have to know how to use AI properly. So one of the biggest things that came out when ChatGPT exploded a couple of years back, people started to use ChatGPT and input information and documents onto ChatGPT to query and to do their job to see what comes out of it. But that's a danger, because the danger is once you put information or documents onto ChatGPT, that document now becomes part of the training manual that ChatGPT will now learn to train itself on different things. And the problem was people using a lot of company documentation, sensitive information, things that the company wouldn't want to put out there, and you're now putting it onto a system, and the system now keeps that document and is able to use that document as part of its training regime. So part of safely implementing AI within any organization is having your policies, your procedures, but training of staff, sensitizing staff, and how to engage with AI effectively and properly to meet the business needs, but at the same time understand the safety concerns. You can't put anything and everything on these AI tools because you don't know the data. At the end of the day, it stays inside there, it doesn't go away, you can't delete it. And they're using that now as part of their training manual to be able to train the AI on different data sets. So all these different things have to be looked at if you really want to now play with and engage with AI in a meaningful way.
Rishi, as we wrap things up, and this question, it might for some be a bit frivolous, but again, every question, I think there is value in every question. People looking on this morning and we're having this AI discussion. I guess the crux of it really is who is in charge of this? Where did AI even come from? Is there some lab or some person with some mother computer? I mean, who's on the back end of AI really and truly here, Rishi? Who's in charge?
So AI has been around for years, for decades. I mean, going back to the 1950s, 1940s. But what really started the exponential rise of AI in recent was processing power, which is that, these what we call, computers have CPUs, central processing units. Well, they upgraded it now to what we call graphic processing units. So it takes a lot of data, bytes and megabytes, I don't want to get too technical, of data, and it's able to process it at a rapid speed. And what you're seeing now is there are clusters. So just like in software, we have Microsoft and Apple and Google that dominates everything. We're now starting to see in the AI space different, I would say, conglomerates or cartels coming up to be able to dominate the AI space. So we have NVIDIA, we have ChatGPT, and now we see DeepSeek with China. So we see now that AI is not only it's now becoming a geopolitical tool that different states are now looking at and investing in to give them an upper arm. It resides there on the internet. It resides in these massive data warehouses that exist with all these big tech companies. And those are things that you need to be aware of when you're really looking to engage with this. Because, for example, if the government wants to engage with AI in the country, the question is that should we rely on third-party tools, or should we now try to develop our own AI with our own data center so we control our data? Because if you're now going to put government data on these AI tools, that means the data is outside. And all these other companies now have access to the information. Do you really want to have that in place? So if the government is really looking to really invest in AI, it needs to do so in a responsible way and have a proper plan to be able to implement AI in a way that benefits the country, but also safeguards the information and data the country produces.
Rishi, artificial intelligence is here to stay. It's going nowhere. So as we look to wrap things up,
it's going nowhere. Yeah,
it's going to be, and it's probably going to get only even more advanced. As we wrap things up, just your word of advice to those looking on, especially those who are extremely fearful and apprehensive when it comes to the whole AI conversation.
So I think, yes, AI does create, we all grew up the generation of Terminator, and we all know how that storyline goes. So there is that fear that, these technologies will take over the world. We even had the people who are the godfathers of these things coming out afterwards and saying, listen, these things have question marks over them. I think we need to be we need to keep ourselves aware of it. We can't hide and put our head down into our spiritual and think these things will pass. It's here to stay. It's the reality of the world is we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate our children. And we need to do so in a responsible manner in knowing how do we engage with the tools and don't let the tools, control us, but we are the ones that have to be in control of everything that's going on.
Rishi, sincere thanks. Great conversation this morning. I think you were able to give people a real clear perspective and lay down the blueprint really as to what the future is going to look like and what we have to really do to adjust and to be part of that said future, because we don't want to get left behind. I think AI won't really replace folks. It will just enhance what people are doing, and once you're up to the time, you'll be able to move with the energy and the winds. All the best, Rishi.
Yep, no problem. Thanks a lot.
Rishi Maharaj there, CEO of the PAS Privacy Advisory Services Limited. We're going to come back and officially wrap things up. A couple quick announcements. Well, some obviously housekeeping in terms of how to book the show and all that, but also internals regarding the PNM at Balize House. I'll give some details regarding that. I just saw some information there from the producer, so we put that out, and we'll of course come back to wrap things up. See you soon.